Hello, beauties of Facebook. Renee Massey here. It is Monday. It is a really beautiful day in September. I feel so happy that it's September. My daughter, my oldest daughter, I have two daughters. My oldest is turning 18 on Wednesday. There's just so much transition going on in our lives right now and so much change, and it's also good, but whew, man, there's a lot going on. I really wanted to come on today to talk about psychic abilities and the impact that the ego has on those abilities, because I really feel very, very much that everybody is psychic. I have been working with psychics for several years. I have trained psychics. I have taught classes. I have done so much energy work. I have done so much, just so much. I've done so much. And one of the things that consistently comes up is how the ego impacts our reading ability. And that just means like how we're able to connect with the signs and the signals and the symbols and the different ways that the energy comes through for you. So first of all, I want you to acknowledge that. I want you to acknowledge this to yourself. If you've made it this far in the video, I would love for you to acknowledge this to yourself. I have psychic abilities. Like, just say that to yourself. I have psychic abilities. And how does that feel in your body? How does that feel in your headspace? Do you say that and there's like this weird twisty, knotty feeling that shows up? Do you say it and there feels like the embodiment of truth that is also mixed in with some other thoughts and emotions? Are there people that kind of spring to your mind that instantly you feel like would have an opinion or a judgment or something to say about this statement that you're making? That would say, no, you're not that. That's bad. You can't do that, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why I'm asking you about this is because, first of all, I've been there so many times. Oh my gosh, so many times. But it's because I want you to be aware of how much your ego is impacting the truth. So, your ego, here to protect you, here to always look out for the I, the self, the me. It is an absolute, it's really a beautiful thing that's been in place in your brain to keep things together, to preserve different elements of who you are and to protect you. To protect you from making a mistake, to protect you from going off course, to protect you from procrastination. You know, your ego is going to say like, oh my gosh, you didn't do this thing on time, you need to get to it, you know? And so there's times where, yes, the ego is absolutely a pain in the ass. And there's times where it is absolutely supporting us to stay on track. But I think as humans, if you've not really been taught how to understand the way that your own identity is coming together and the way that your own thoughts are coming together and the way that your experiences are shaping you, it can be really difficult to discern whether or not your ego is helping you or your ego is hurting you, right? And this is where we get to explore that, because there's not, like, in my opinion, there's nothing like bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's not bad, it's not wrong. We've got to really stop as a society labeling things so intensely. We label things so intensely and we make other people wrong so that we are right. And other people make themselves right and then we feel wrong. And there's just so much judgment and prejudice and hurt and harmfulness that's going on right now. And this is a perfect example of the ego. This is honestly a perfect example of the ego, is saying like, but I'm right and you're wrong. No. And that just isn't going to work with your psychic gifts. I'm sorry, it's not, you know? And so as you have claimed for yourself, I am psychic, I have psychic abilities, I have psychic gifts and powers, and there's a psychic knowing within me, and blah, blah, blah. I want you to really pay attention to the different but and nah and yeah. You know, all of these resistance, all the resistance that comes up around you owning this for yourself. If you know, I mean, you already know if you're psychic. You already know this deep within your soul. And there is a deep knowing, and you might bypass that because you might say to yourself, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to go there. I'm not allowed to explore this. And so I want to share just a really quick story about how this impacted my gifts and how this impacted the delivery and the evolution of how my gifts would be, you know, growing and developing over time. So when I was a teenager, I learned how to read tarot cards, okay? And I did this for many years, and so I was very good at this. I was very good at interpreting tarot, and it wasn't, like, at first you're just, like, learning the cards. You want to learn the cards, you learn the meaning of the cards, the different interpretations of what this card means, and then you start going a little bit deeper. You start going into the other symbolism that is in the cards. So it's like you could start with just like, okay, so the Empress card and the major arcana symbolizes creativity and motherhood and fertility and, you know, abundance and stuff like that. And then maybe down the line, as you are growing into your practice with tarot, you start to also discover that, you know, the Empress is associated with some aspects of astrology, and the 3 is associated with some aspects of numerology, and, you know, this 3 card has deeper meaning than what was on the description in the book that you got, right? And so you'll go deeper with this, and you go deeper with this, and you go deeper with this, and then hello, Miss Tasha, and then all of a sudden it kind of expands into its own thing where you don't even have to think about it anymore. Now you're just like doing it. You're just like pulling cards, and you're like, da, 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 this is that, da, 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 this, you have to watch out for this, and I see this, and I know that, and da, 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 da. And the person's like, wow, 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 wow. And one time I realized that I didn't need my cards anymore, and that was like really crazy for me. So this was probably like, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years ago. Probably closer to 8 years ago at this point. And I had been working with my cards for so many years, and all of a sudden, so I was getting ready to do a reading. And so we were walking into the reading space where we were going to sit down, and I had my cards in my hand, and they're cloth and all perfect and wonderful. And then we're getting ready to sit down, and I got this really strong, like, whoosh, like this feeling that kind of like hit me and surged through me. It wasn't like bad. I don't experience bad things like that. And if I did, I would know what to do about it. But it was just more about like, I got an impression. I got an imprint of something. And so I got like this really strong feeling. And so when you're developing your gifts, you want to pay attention to like what's showing up first, right? So what happened for me was like, I will get, and it could be simultaneous, honestly. Or it could be like just a little itty bitty degree of a difference, but it's like the feeling and the vision show up very, very, very quickly for me. But I think the sensation shows up first because I'm very empathic. And so the feeling was she had a loss. Okay, this woman was grieving something. And then the image showed up, and I saw her, I feel like I saw her like with a dog. Like she was like petting a dog. She was like kind of on the ground, crouched down, and she was like petting the dog's head, you know? But the feeling was loss, and I saw her with the dog. So together, I just stopped, and I was like, oh my gosh, did you, by any chance, did you recently lose a pet? And she just like stopped, and she was like, yes, my dog just died. And I was like, whoa. Like I had not really experienced at that point, about 8 years ago, I had not really experienced in a professional setting where I would get this imprint and then be able to, you know, explain it to somebody or to talk about it with confidence, because I did not have that level of confidence at that time. And so, but now when she says yes, you're like, oh, like all of a sudden now I'm feeling a little bit more confident. Now I feel like, oh, I'm gonna go a little deeper here. But I still brought my cards in. And it was a great reading. I didn't use the cards, but I brought my cards in. I went just completely psychic and did a full reading for her based on the impressions that I was receiving. Okay? Now, the next reading that I did after that, I brought my cards in. And the reading that I did after that, I brought my cards in. And the reading I did after that, I brought my cards in. I did not use my cards, but I brought them in, and 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 I brought them in. And for like 2 weeks, I continued to keep them with me just in case. Just in case I fucked up. Just in case I got it wrong. Just in case I wasn't spot on, just in case I needed support. And I will always tell people that I love tarot cards, I love oracle cards, I love runes, I love lots of different forms of divination. I love divination. But I don't need divination with an object to have the information that I'm looking for. But at that time in my life, I almost couldn't believe that what was happening to me was actually real. And I'm going to let you know that that was my ego. My ego is like, you're not that good. Don't put yourself in the position where you're all confident right now and you could mess this up. Don't put yourself in the situation where you're going to leave your cards in a different space and you're going to go do a reading for this woman and you could be off. That the impressions that you're receiving, that she's going to say, no, that's not it. Nope, nope, nope. And so this is where I want to get really clear about the ego and your psychic abilities. Let me take a sip. So, your ego is really strong, and it's a good thing to have the ego. I'm not going to tell you that your ego is shit. I'm not going to tell you that you need to drop the ego, release the ego, forget about the ego, whatever. Because there's a lot of situations in your life that your ego is actually going to be really supportive for you. But they are not going to be supportive for you in a psychic reading. They're not. And the reason is because that your ego is going to constantly try to bypass and put up walls in your brain to negate the confidence that you would have as a reader. Okay? Now, here's the other thing. Your psychic gifts are in your brain. Okay? Like, you have the sensory of your aura and the different things that are coming into your body, but it starts with your brain. And there are parts of your brain that are actually connecting into all the things that are happening in the environment because of how your brainwave activity functions. And so therefore, let's say you're in a stressful situation and you have a lot of beta brain waves that are going like, because the beta brain waves are here to tell you this is an excitable, stressful, like heart rate accelerating experience. And guess what's not going to make its way through is the psychic information, because you're at such a heightened state. You want your body and your brain to be more relaxed so that you can receive the information more cohesively and then start piecing together what it is that you want to share with your sitter. Now, it's also not your job to interpret all of the information that comes in. If you are somebody who hears things, you say what you hear. If you're somebody who sees things, you say what you see. If you're somebody who feels things, you're going to express what you feel. And if you have all of these gifts, as I do, the knowing, the sensing, the seeing, the hearing, then what I do is I have to tie it together into a lot of different things so I can explain it. I can explain it away. But I'm not here to tell her the interpretation of all of that. I'm not here to relay the interpretation of all of these messages, because it's also, these messages are not for me. So what I see a lot of psychics do is they get in their ego. They think it's their job to tell like this really beautiful long story about how everything is going to happen in this individual's life, what time it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, who it's going to happen with, where it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And that overwhelms the reader because they're taking on responsibility that they're actually not responsible for. You're not. If you are a psychic reader, if you are psychic and you offer insight and guidance and coaching and all and strategy and all of those kinds of things, like depending on what kind of a psychic you actually are and how you want to utilize your gifts, like you want to be clear about that. But if you've not done any of this work and really dug into what your gifts mean and how they want to be accessed and how the messages come through, and your ego keeps getting involved and telling you that you're going to look like an idiot and you're wrong and you're bad and you're not good enough and you shouldn't be doing this and this is scary and something bad could happen or you could ruin your reputation. I had such a difficult time around that time frame. I would say it was about 7-8 years ago, because so much was changing for me. And I realized that I no longer needed my cards to actually provide a very, very clear, cohesive, intelligible reading for somebody, bringing in the impressions, the senses, and what I heard and all of the different things like into the session. But what would hurt me is if I let my ego get involved and start creating all of these other narratives around what is just true. And so if you can stay in the space of, this is how I'm hearing it, and this is the way I'm seeing it, and this is the way it hits my body, and then somewhere there's just like this deep knowing, I don't know how I know, but I just know this, and start developing confidence and courage in that space, that arena, that swim lane. without pulling in all of the times in your life that you made a decision and you were wrong. All of the times that you thought this was the person for you and he wasn't. All of the times that you thought this is going to be the thing that I do and it wasn't. Those are different. You might be fearful that you've made mistakes in your life and you've had missteps in your life and you've had some failures or things that have happened in your life, and that has actually made you unworthy of pursuing this for yourself even deeper because you think, well, I'm not really good at life. How could I be good at this? But understand that most people that have these abilities are running them on a very superficial level, okay? And those are probably the people that get impressions, but they don't share what they're getting. These are the people that really want to be known for this, but won't actually invest. These are the people that actually feel really passionate about having this ability, but will not stretch themselves to go deeper into deeper messages with deeper energy and actually do the deeper work on ourselves, because that's actually what it takes. It doesn't mean that your ego gets taken out of the process altogether. Your ego is a part of you. Embrace your ego, okay? But it does mean that you get to discover who you are on a much deeper level so that the information that comes through you doesn't feel like it's being fabricated to protect you. That is where you are hurting yourself and your client, because you're not here to protect yourself from information. Okay, you should always put a bubble of protection around yourself to protect against any type of low vibrational energies and entities and different things that are always out there. They're out there. They just are. And the fact that some people don't believe in it, like, I don't even have the time for that. I just don't even have the time for that. But I'm going to tell you that if you are willing to let your ego take a break, and let your ego sit in a chair to the side while you go deep into your own intuition, you go into your inner vision, you go into the mind's eye, you go into the sensations of what spirit is showing you, and you go into all of the layers, the deeper layers of you that embodies the wisdom to bring the information forward, your readings will be spot fucking on and very, very, very accurate. The information that you bring through for your client, they are going to value it tremendously, okay? And it's not because you are the best of the best of the best. It's because you're authentic. You want to be an authentic reader. You want to feel like an authentic psychic. You've got to do the work. It doesn't show up overnight, and it doesn't show up from watching TikTok videos, and it doesn't show up from reading books, and it doesn't show up from any of the things that take you out of practice. If you are not in practice, then you are not going to bring them into the full power that they came here to represent, okay? And I would never be able to say any of this here if I didn't tell my ego to fuck off for a few minutes. I wouldn't be able to, because my ego would say, like, you're going to look stupid. Somebody's going to disagree with you. Somebody's going to have a different opinion about that. They could see things a little bit differently. You could hurt somebody's feelings. Somebody could get upset with you for feeling that way or saying something that way. I don't care. Get upset with me. I don't care. I'm not here to be digestible for people. I'm here to let you know this is the truth, this is the way it goes, and when you're ready to actually take on that responsibility and embody what you keep talking about, there are steps for you that are available that are going to change your life and take you to an entirely new level of what you are capable of in your own mind, your own body, your own spirit, your own evolution, how you serve yourself, how you serve other people, how you interact with the world, how you receive, how you give, what you share. And when you actually pull all of that back because you're like, I've done enough, and now it's time for me to rest, and it's time for me to take care of myself, and it's time for me to give back to me, because I am a vessel that is constantly pouring energy through it, and there are times that I need to shut that lever off. So there are a lot of nuances to what is all involved in being psychic, because everybody's going to embody that a little bit differently. Everybody's going to read differently. Everybody's going to receive messages and impressions and hear a little bit differently, see a little bit differently. The things that you recognize in your mind, like this actually happened, and I talk about it in Psychic Circle, where I saw somebody in a reading. I saw a loved one coming through in spirit, so this is more mediumship, but what I saw was them holding up a quilt, and it wasn't a quilt. The person could connect with the truth that there was a blanket, but it wasn't a quilt. Why did I see a quilt? Well, I had people in my life that were making quilts. it is very recognizable for my brain to understand quilt, okay, and not just blanket, if you know what I mean. So your brain, it already has all of these different impressions and all of these other stored things in its memory bank. And what happens in a reading, especially if you are clairvoyant, you are going to see things that are going to not necessarily be spot on, but be symbolic of something. And it's important for you to know how to talk about that with your clients. So that way, when you say like, okay, like I'm seeing a blanket, but it could be a quilt, it could be an Afghan. I'm seeing a quilt because I feel like I have a lot of quilts, and I had grandmothers that made a lot of quilts, you know? So there's different ways of conveying information that is very accurate, very authentic, very genuine, where you are being responsible, where you are following your code of ethics and being really good and cohesive with your client during the reading. But when your ego gets involved in that situation, you're not even going to say that you see the blanket. Instead, you're going to be like, I think they're holding something. You know what? I don't know. And so there might be times that you completely bypass the message altogether because you're not sure how to convey the information, because you don't want to be wrong and you don't want to look stupid and you don't want to upset the person that you're reading for, and you definitely don't want to harm your reputation as a reader by somebody saying to all of their friends, like, I paid this much money for this reading, and then they couldn't even tell me shit about whatever they wanted to know about, right? So, but that's your ego that worries about that. The integrity and the authenticity of who you are as a reader is to deliver information and to provide insight and guidance and, really support like a pathway in co-creation with the person that you're reading for. It is not to make sure that you are right about everything that you say, and the person that always thinks that way, they're not going to be a good reader. They're just not. Because if you're constantly consumed by perfection and you're constantly worried about being wrong, how can you actually make room for yourself to be right and learn from the different nuances of how your gifts show up, right? So that is huge. It is huge, okay? I have been doing readings without any type of divination tool for like 8 years, okay? And so yes, it's possible for you to go from being a card reader or somebody who is involved in different types of divination and then actually going straight into like mediumship and delivering psychic information without using any type of tool whatsoever. I think that when you're using cards, it's really good because you can add structure to the reading. So when I'm training people to read tarot cards, I tell them right off the bat, I'm not going to lie, like this is basically a tool to provide structure to whatever is coming through. But at some point, you might not need those cards to create that structure for you. You might not need those cards to give you the impression or to give you the symbolism of what's happening in that person's life. The cards are incredible to use, but they are not necessary. You can actually expand beyond there. And I recommend it because you'll never know how amazing your gifts are until you actually start stretching your capacity to be more and hold more and do more in a reading. And that means that you've got to be able to go into those vulnerable spots, and you've got to be willing to put the ego down for a period of time. If you want, you can pick it right back up at the end of the session, but I would recommend that during the session and while you are working with clients, that to maintain the integrity of your gifts, you really speak very honestly and that you share the information very clearly of what's coming through. But if you're all muddied up with ego and fear and, doubt, and you don't trust yourself and you're not trusting spirit and you're like, I don't know what the hell is going on and I don't know if this is going to work and I don't want to look stupid, that is what you will manifest, okay? So this is an opportunity. Psychic Circle is now $777, and I'm adding modules. So we have the traditional and original 6 modules in that program that go really deep into how to take care of yourself, integrity, responsibility, code of ethics, honoring the ego, honoring the messages that come through, how we talk about the messages that are coming through, how you're going to share that information with people. And then I walk you through different things like remote viewing. Because remote viewing, being able to tap into somebody's environment and see everything that's going on there with their permission, of course, is going to help you understand where they are at in their life. It has happened in readings for me where I could sense that something was going on in the person's home, and I was like, do you mind if I just remote view this really quick? And I was like, ooh, you got something in the closet. Like there's something that's there that like, ooh, it shouldn't be there. And so I will ask it to go, and I will take care of all of that. But I wouldn't be able to do that without doing the remote viewing. And since I've closed down my physical location, like everything that I do is completely digital now. And so a lot of people, ever since COVID, more and more healers and psychics and light workers and channels are working digitally and remotely. And so to think that you wouldn't have as much power to be as efficient and effective because you're not in the same space as somebody is actually false. The energy is powerful no matter where you go. I've done clearings on people that were remote, and they could feel it. They could feel me working on them. They could feel other angels or guides or other beings coming into their space and assisting. Like, there is so much that is available to do in this work, and I would encourage you not to play it small. I would encourage you not to shrink or constrict your energy because of fear, doubt, or pissing other people off or looking stupid, because it's only going to perpetuate the stupidity, to tell you the truth. When you fear all of this, like, I don't want to look dumb, I don't want to look bad, I don't want to look like this, it only perpetuates what you are resisting. So just remember that. And so Psychic Circle was $555. Now Psychic Circle is $777. You will get the original 6 modules, and then I'm adding on all of these bonus modules with a workbook and a psychic journal, and all of these really cool things that you get to use to keep track of your progress and the different things that come up along the way that I'm here to support you with. So I will leave it at that, and I'm really just having a great week this week. Kira turns 18, kind of mind blown about that. And all of these different things. My birthday is at the beginning of October. My anniversary is at the end of September. Kaden, my youngest, she's going to be 13 on Halloween. There's just like so much going on right now, but I'm so excited. And at the end of this month, we are going to kick off Psychic Circle, and my business is going to be turning 5 years old. So I'm also going to be doing some pretty awesome celebration stuff around that, because being in business for 5 years, good God, I've learned so much about who I am. I've learned so much about everything. I've learned about everything. Everything that you could possibly imagine, I have learned about it. And some lessons have been hard and cruel. Some have been really incredible. But I think the path is the path, and you have to just like, you have to own it. You have to acknowledge to yourself, like, I'm in no matter what, and that's pretty much what I've done. And there have been times that I've wobbled and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, like, this is hard. But the truth is that I'm in no matter what, for the good, the bad, the ugly. And I love this work. I love the journey of it. It is, you will never know yourself in the way that, like, I've grown to know myself having a business and doing the work, the kind of work that I do in my business for my clients. So I'm just sending everybody so much love right now. I hope you have a really, really, really great week. And if anybody is if you are interested in Psychic Circle, do not wait. I've got people that have already signed up. I do not have a particular launch date yet. I'm kind of babying my calendar right now because I do have so much happening between September and October. So I think probably in the next week, I'll figure out which day we're going to start, and then I'll open it up for everybody to access all of the previous recorded calls. And then we're going to start with the live stuff, and it's going to be really, really kick-ass. It's going to be amazing. So I love you guys. I hope you have a really great week. DM me or comment if you want more information about Psychic Circle, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.